This is Mike J from Running with Scissors. We're the idiots that make Postal. Thanks for tuning in to the Scene World podcast.
It's the Scene World podcast. My name is AJ. I had to think about that for a minute. That's Jurg over there.
Exactly. Hi.
We will be, well, I won't be, but Jurg will be talking with Richard Loewenstein, who we've spoken to before.
Exactly. But this time, I'm talking to him about his games he's doing, not for the Amiga, but for a living, and with his company Spieleschreiber. And yeah, we are talking about the life of of a game dev for a living.
Yeah.
And interestingly, he's going the same route that Hans Ippisch did for the European side of the Intellivision Amico, and getting governmental funding from the state of Bavaria for making the games.
Okay.
And we are talking about that, me and him and me.
Yeah. You, we're all together.
Exactly, all together on this. Yeah.
Before that, we got a couple of newses, I think.
Exactly.
There were a lot of games that were put out around it's early-ish November right now as we record this.
Right.
Right around Halloween, a lot of games came out.
Well, I only got one game news, however.
Oh, okay.
And that's actually RoboCop Rogue City, or Rogue City, I guess. Rogue City. RoboCop Rogue City has been released on November 2nd. And man, what kind of game! It's super amazing.
What kind of game?
It's a first-person shooter.
Yes.
And it's amazing. It reminds me a bit of the first level, the first stage of RoboCop 3 on the Commodore 64. So much like Crosshair games.
Okay.
But it's using the latest Unreal 5 engine. So you need a potential PC if you don't go through the PS5 version. So don't try it on a potato. Yes.
Right.
So it's a real nice game. Can only suggest that. Yes.
I got 3 that caught my attention. Of the many that were released. I guess I don't know if there was a contest. I don't know if there was something. I don't know what happened, but a lot of games got released around Halloween. And one of them is Cauldron 2 for the PS4. Which is so I guess Cauldron 2 is a classic C64 game.
It is.
And the coder TCFS and Murphy have released a +4 version of the game. And it looks, from what I see, it looks a lot like the C64 version, with the exception that there are more colors. Because one of the things that the +4 had, where it was 256 colors, whereas the 64 was limited to the 16.
There's something interesting to know about Cauldron, right?
Yeah.
And that is actually the second part is not only called Cauldron, but it's also called Cauldron 2. The Pumpkin Strikes Back.
Yeah, the Pumpkin Strikes Back. Yeah.
The Pumpkin Strikes Back, yes. And Cauldron and Cauldron 2 were actually one of those few games where Palace Software actually translated them into German, French, and Spanish. So in Germany, it's actually called Hexenküche, And the second part is called Hexenküche 2, Der Kürbis schlägt zurück. Yeah. So, and just by pure accident, I found, as a kid back then, as a teenager, that there's also a Spanish and a French release.
Yes, it says that it's one of the very few games released for the Spectrum 64 and Amstrad CPC, and there were translations of it, lots of different translations of the game.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And also, if you go to the C64 wiki, there's an article where you can read about that there are two versions of the game.
Mm-hmm.
One that is barely beatable, and later they made a collection edition on disc. I got mine from France, but it's the English version.
Okay.
And where Palace Software made the game easier, so you wouldn't lose magic while you're flying constantly, and a few other improvements to make it easier and more beatable. And they sold this collection, as I said, together with the Cauldron 2 release on disc in one box. It's a super rare release. And I got a copy of that, of course.
Okay, of course. The other game, we'll put a link to where you can check that game out, where you can get it in the link below. Another one that struck me is another re-release, but a remake. I'm sorry.
Isn't that a conversion rather, a remake? Really?
Kinda, sorta. So it's Castlevania AGA for the Amiga. And it's a remake of the '86 original.
Okay, so
but
it's
with
a remake.
Visuals that were inspired by Castlevania Chronicles and other non-8-bit titles. So it looks really nice.
Awesome.
It's available on itch.io.
Everything is available on itch.io, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, so AGA Amigas get a free Castlevania game for Halloween.
Awesome.
And
is that official with permission from Konami and stuff?
I don't know.
Ooh.
It doesn't say. It says not for sale, all rights Konami. So I would think that, I guess maybe as long as they don't charge for it, they can do it. And then Cytronic came out and released Darkland 2 just a little bit before Halloween. The original Darkland came out in 2014, and this new one is out now. It reminds me a bit of the visuals. I mean, it uses the shoot 'em up construction kit engine, a modified version, but the visuals on it remind me a bit of Forbidden Forest.
Forbidden Forest by Cosme.
Yeah, like
I remember.
Now, granted, you're just walking up, like it's a up scroller, and it's not like a 3D
Forest.
Yeah, it's not a 3D thing, but you're in a dark forest and you're fighting spiders and things like that, and it's got some good visuals for being a suck game.
So a suck, I always say.
Shoot 'em up, a Soik. Oh, I always call them suck games, SEUCK. Yeah. But
anyway, interesting thing about Forbidden Forest is I got the disc released from AG3, and I was super shocked because I bought sorry I bought it shrink wrapped.
Yeah.
And I was super super shocked when I unwrapped it. And now all the haters now, why do you open a game that is still sealed from 83? Because I want to play and experience it.
Exactly.
Anyway,
Exactly.
Anyway, the disc label looked like printed from home.
Mm-hmm.
Not even correctly put on the disc itself.
Mm-hmm.
The manual looked like photocopied 100 times.
Yep.
And it was like, what is that? Is that a pirated release? No, that's the original game they sold.
You know what? I got a long time ago the Cosmi Top 20 Solid Gold or whatever like collection. And it was, like it came in like the big black box. I got it somewhere. I don't know where it is, but it's got like like the gold lettering on it, and it's all these titles.
Big box. I got the big box too.
Yeah.
There are actually 3 big boxes.
Right.
I got all 3 of them. Big box 1, big box 2, and big box 3.
It's got like games. It's got Chernobyl on it. It's got Fearless Fred, I think. It's got Forbidden Forest 1 and 2. It's got all these Richard Petty Talladega. It's got a ton of games on it. But yes, the manual is photocopied, and the disc labels are like typed on a typewriter, and then like not even like they're crooked on the disc or peeling off the disc or something. And that's how it came when it was new.
Yeah.
I remember getting that because I had seen it in one of those the C64 buyer's guides, that you get when you got the computer, and then it was always in the 10X Computer Express and stuff. So I got it because it's 20 games and it was fairly inexpensive. And the shock at opening this thing and finding out that like how unprofessional it looked, despite the fact that it was Cosmi was a big player in the day. It was kind of shocking, and yeah, it did look like it was made in someone's house. It probably was. I mean that's the nature of things back then.
Yeah.
Um.
Anyway, I got 2 more news, and this time they are German retro magazine news.
Okay.
So one news is about the Retro Gamer, the German edition from the Heise publishing company, actually is supposed to lay down to rest in November, but the famous editor of computer magazines in Germany, Jörg Langer, actually announced at Gameswirtschaft that he is taking over the license of the German version of Retro Gamer. And so it's going to continue.
Interesting. I wonder if that's going to be a Lodestar sort of thing, because
paper. It's paper.
I know it's paper, but I'm just saying when Fender kind of stopped doing it, Soft stopped doing it, and then Fender started his own company. Fender Tucker, who was the managing editor, started his own company to continue doing it without soft disk. And then when he stopped doing it, they handed the reins over to Dave Moorman. And
I know. We worked with Dave Moorman once on a Wild West.
Yes. And
edition.
then from there it just kind of fizzled after a while, and to the point where I think the last issue, like issue 200 or something, is it's been released, but it's an unofficial release because it was never actually finished.
I know. It was released by a fan of the magazine.
Yeah, right.
By somebody from the American scene.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they Fender Tucker and Dave Moorman never put their forces together to make a release of all issues on one CD.
What are you talking about?
There are collection CDs but there's not one complete one.
Yes,
there
there
are
is.
there are always
The
issues.
complete
missing.
Lodestar. I've got it from Fender. I bought it from Ramble House, Fender's thing a couple of years ago. It's got everything on it.
Really?
Yeah.
I still think to remember that some issues were missing.
Mm-mm.
No?
The one you can get from Ramble House, I believe, has all the issues and every extraneous thing. It's got Lodestar 128. It's got the complete Programmer series. It's got the complete music and the Walt Harned collections. It's got the literary contests, which I took part in. I think 2 of, maybe.
Then I'm mistaken. I thought
it even came with a. He even sent a one of the soft disk catalogs of things you could buy at the time. It's I've got it again somewhere around here. It's one of the coolest things because.
So you mean all issues, including the one from Dave Moorman?
I believe so. I don't have yes, including Dave Moorman's. Every issue up until I think 199. I think the 200th wasn't out because that wasn't official. But up to 199, I can verify because I've got them on. I've got the issues. I copied them off the CD, so they should be on my computer. Let me do a quick search and see if I can find.
Anyway,
okay,
not.
Hang on. Okay. So it comes with brain stuff, color covers, the complete Bible, the complete Programmer, crosswords, flags and anthems, fun stuff, Nice Calhoun music. Okay, and then Lodestar 64, which is 1 through 199.
Okay.
And they're on D64s and D81s. So you can run them off of one disc or the 4 basically because it's 2 discs, double-sided. Nice. And then Lodestar Letter, which was the paper newsletter that was put together. All 76 of those as PDFs. Lodestar 128, which
and you can still get it nowadays.
It's 1 through 42 of Lodestar 128. Yes. If you go to it's at Ramble House, and let me just make sure that it's still there because
Fender Tucker is still around?
Fender Tucker's still around, yes, absolutely. Ramble House. If you go to ramblehouse.com, that is... Yep, one of the very first things you see on there, Fender Tucker's Books and Music, and then Lodestar Complete, which is everything. and to order, just send Fender at ramblehouse.com, $15 via PayPal. It's
okay.
And it says for fans of Robin Harper and the 8-Bit Show and Tell, it is now only $15. Although it looks like it looks like it might be download only now. I'm not sure. When I got it, it was it was a physical CD. But I don't know if that's the same anymore. It might be. I think it might be download only.
Oh,
but you're still getting the same stuff. It's the same stuff.
Which is better because then I don't have to fiddle with income tax.
Yeah. Right. So that's still there. That's available at Ramble House.
Nice. Okay.
As is a bunch of other cool stuff. Ramble House specializes in old weird books from like the 40s and 50s.
Ooh. That
have been more or less forgotten by time, mystery and science fiction and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of cool stuff that if you go looking around in there, you'll find some interesting things worth looking at. But yeah, so there's that.
Okay. We'll put a link to that in the podcast description as always.
Absolutely. I'll add it to my list.
Other news I've got is Terry Stewart, also called Tessa, released a better version which doesn't have poor audio about his original IBM PC 5150 on YouTube. So we'll link to that. So hooray to preservation. And the other and last news I've got, there used to be the magazine called Retro that somewhere in 2019 stopped publishing. And now I received a letter and a new issue last Saturday from the new publishing company that is taking over distribution, subscription management, and printing of the magazine.
Okay.
Called PMD Print Media Service. Okay. And it is the old staff from 2019 and back. And the owner, well, the guy that is managing the release of the magazine is still Enno Corners, but he is not anymore doing all the other stuff involved with it. Only organizing the staff, nothing else, and the contents, obviously. So that's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Because prior to Retro magazine, it was actually called Go 64. And that is the magazine that made me aware that there's still a scene around the C64. So April 1st, 1998, I actually joined the demo scene thanks to the Go 64 magazine in Enno Corners.
That was kind of the same with me with Lodestar. Like I had sort of given up on the 64 as a like I was writing at the time, and I didn't like writing on the 64. I didn't, just the it didn't feel like I was really doing it. And then I got a thing in the mail for like a free 3-month subscription trial thing to Lodestar, and I got that, and it was like to see that people were still using the thing and how they were presenting this magazine. And then later on, they had stuff from the demo scene, which blew my mind because I had never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
I think the first thing that I saw from the demo scene actually came off of Q-Link in 91 or 92, and I think that my time with Lodestar was after that, but there was a lot of stuff in there that it was a big influence on my program. Well, Jeff Jones, the associate editor at the time, who was their utility programmer, was a big influence on my programming, as was Fender, and then the guys, when I actually joined a demo group in RPG, and got taught by the best.
Awesome.
Got taught by the best to code my worst.
Ooh.
I'm a terrible coder, but I was taught by some very good coders.
Well, as long as it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, those are my news, basically.
Okay, I got two more. One is that the Kegs emulator has been updated. A new version, version 1.31, has been released. That's an Apple IIgs emulator. So I don't know. What does it run on? It runs on Mac OS 10, Mac OS, Windows, and Linux.
Nice. All the main platforms.
Yeah. So Kegs is a really good, apparently, Apple IIgs emulator, and the Apple IIgs was a pretty awesome computer because that was like an Apple II with a 16-bit processor, because it had the 65816, right? Yeah, that's the 16-bit version of the 6502.
Could be.
Yeah, I think I'm saying that right. 65816, yeah. Because they still make that and they still use it and stuff. But yeah, it was really like a precursor to the Mac, because it had like GSOS, which looked a lot like, it was actually prettier than Mac OS, because Mac OS was black and white, like literally it was two colors. It was black and it was white. Whereas GSOS had full color back then. It also ran Geos. There was a Geos version as well for the Apple II.
Nice.
And on that same thing, the M2 Apple IIe emulator for Linux has been released. So if you want an Apple IIe, if you want to emulate that, and that can also do GSOS, because the 2E, you could upgrade them. They had cards, you could turn them into a 2GS, I believe, with a add-on. But that's available for Linux only, and is apparently very good. So we'll put a link to where you can check that out as well. So yeah, that's my news. I got a couple of games,
awesome.
couple of emulators.
Make sure to send me the link list.
Of course, it's sitting right here.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my news for today.
Awesome. So let's jump to Richard Loewenstein and his Spieleschreiber company and his plans for making a living out of releasing new games, not for the Amiga.
Even though the Amiga games are awesome. Reshooter is...
not an Amiga guy, can't comment on that.
I don't have an AGA Amiga. Obviously, I have an Amiga 500, so I can't play Reshooter on this. But I have played it on my emulated Amiga 1200, and it is bitchin'. And also, my fiance Laura did the voice for
Escalation.
Yes, she did the vocal tracks for the game. So that's also a cool thing about that.
Awesome.
I've got an unboxing video of that, which I never released, which I really want to. I was trying to
release it now.
Yeah, I was trying to time the release to go with the release of. I was trying to time the release to go with the release of the Reshooter Proxima. But then Reshooter Proxima came out, and I didn't know. I was unaware of it. So but I've got this unboxing.
So why don't you release it now?
I will. We should. Yeah. Of Reshoot R when it was first sent to us, and we should put that. It's a couple years old, but it's really good, and it shows you the quality of the workmanship of even his Amiga stuff. Because I mean, again, it's really, really good. So look for that soon. That'll be up.
Awesome. Now you promised it.
I did. No, I mean, I've been talking about this for a while. He released the game before I knew he was going to release the game.
I didn't know either.
Yeah,
I was on the Amiga 3080, and there it was.
Yeah, and you told me, and I was like, oh. So yeah, we should release it soon. So right. I'll throw the finishing touches on it, and then it'll be up.
Awesome. So now finally for real.
Yes. Sorry, I'll stop talking. I'll stop talking now.
Okay. Bye. Today we have another returning guest, actually, Richard Loewenstein. Welcome to the podcast, Richard.
Hi guys, thanks for having me.
Awesome. So today, in contrary to the past episode, we want to talk about your current working projects, because 2 weeks ago we met each other again at Amiga 38, and you spoke about your projects, about new games in a short interview on the stage, where you said you take money from the German government and use it to develop games. And that is what we want to talk about today. And perhaps a little short roundup. You are mainly known for having been writing for the Amiga Joker magazine.
I worked for it as editor-in-chief.
And you also did some games on the Commodore 64, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That was, in fact, that was before I joined the Joker Verlag for Amiga Joker. I wrote a few games on Commodore 64. Probably the best known is Persian Gulf Inferno, and or the German version is called North Sea Inferno. Some may also know on Twinkie Goes Hiking, which is a pretty unspectacular platform game, but it does have a split screen co-op, well, not co-op mode, a split screen mode, which is kind of fun. So yeah, that's what I did in the 80s.
And on Amiga 38, you actually released Reshoot R Proxima 3.
Reshoot Proxima 3.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, sorry, I did choose a title that is way too complicated. I'm aware of that.
Right. But I guess the games you are working on, where you got the funding from the German government, I guess in Germany it's like depending on the state, actually, because every state has separated funding for things like computer games, I guess. I guess those games will be for the majority, for the general public, perhaps triple A games. No? Tell us a bit about it.
Well, as you may know, we worked on Reshoot Proxima 3 for on more than 4 years, and the reason for that is quite simple: that we wanted to create a game that is not only worth playing on an Amiga platform, but also worth playing for itself. So, and I think when I got the feedback that I got at several events in 2022 and 2023, they kind of showed me that we are really kind of reaching that target. So we are really working on a game that might be worth playing on other platforms, on modern platforms, basically. So and also one of my lifetime dreams was to work as a game developer again. I mean, I did that already in the 80s and 90s, and I wanted to do that again. And the plan was kind of created in 2022 to create a game on a more common platform like PC or consoles that is based on everything that I learned with while working on Reshooter and Reshoot Proxima 3, and create basically a new shoot 'em up game, but also using the Reshoot brand, also using all the lessons learned regarding game design, especially with Reshoot Proxima 3, and basically create a PC game that a much bigger audience would be able to enjoy. Having said that, it's still a shoot 'em up game, which is not. This will not be a million seller, you know. It's shoot 'em up is a very niche genre. But yeah, as we're working on a PC game, we still expect a considerable audience for such a game.
I mean, you never know. I mean, I remember Black Forest games, for example. Never thought that Genesis's Twisted Dreams would be a big hit, you know. So perhaps you are digging gold here. Who knows, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we got a couple of design ideas that should help to get as big as an audience as we can get. I mean, we're not aiming for like a Japanese bullet hell type of shooter, because that really is a very tight and tiny audience. But we've got a couple of ideas which I think should please a lot of people. I mean, with Reshoot Proxima 3, we already learned that this game is now played by people who usually don't play, or who usually don't play shoot 'em up games, just because they like the competition that is at the core of the game. And seeing this really is amazing, because that means this, even though it's a shoot 'em up game, it's also a competition game. And as a competition game, the target audience can potentially be quite big. So yeah, as you say, things happen. And maybe we just talk again in 2 years or so after release, and maybe yeah, I can share some sales numbers or some experiences. Whatever will happen in the next 2 years will be interesting.
So what was actually, well, the moment where you decided to ask the government for funding? I mean, you have been working at PlayOn before, so there must have been some thought process where you were like, that's not right for me. I want to go back to my beginnings. I mean, compared to the 80s, it must be very different nowadays working on games.
Well, it's totally different. Well, no, not totally different. Some things are comparable because you got to be creative. You got to design the visuals. You got to maybe work on some code. But having said that, nowadays you're working not as a one-man show, but you're working as a team, even with a tiny project like Reshooter. That's by the way is the project name so yeah, but that's the challenge that I want to tackle. I want to learn something. I want to keep my brain alive, basically. And also I've already worked on modern games. For example, I did a iPhone game for Ravensburger some years ago. And that kept me in touch with the whole development thing, and also all the Amiga games that I developed the past 6 years. They were all developed using modern development tools. So I kind of feel attached to the development scene, and also while working at PlayOn, I was always in contact with developers, indie developers, AAA developers, and so I think I kind of know what is needed to not only start such a project, but also to take it to the finishing line and then to release it.
But nowadays you have some complex realities that you didn't have. I mean, for example, nowadays, as I mentioned, PC, it will be a PC game. People expect it to be on Steam, and then they expect it to be cloud saving, feature supporting, and then people want a version for the Switch, and they want platform crossplay together in multiplayer. So you have these complex things that back in the Amiga or C64 era you didn't have, because you only concentrated on couch co-op, what is called nowadays, and now, as I said, you are making PC, and obviously people will ask for Steam Deck support, and I mean all those complexities. Doesn't that turn you off in a way, like, oh my god, I have to take that all into account?
Not at all.
Not at all.
That's not at all, because we're talking about expectation management. That's what I call it.
Okay.
Truth is that even working on an Amiga project still means that there's a lot of expectation out there. You're not working on a high budget or any budget at all. You're working all in your spare time if you're working on an Amiga project. That means you cannot really spend any considerable money for visuals, for audio, for voiceover, whatever. But still, people are used to stuff like that. Because they're playing on PS5 or Xbox or PC or whatever, Switch, and they still like to see these things on Amiga. I know they do not really. They love it if they see it. Let's tell it this way.
Okay.
And so it's possible to do stuff like that on the Amiga. You just have to find a way to create it. Also, because Amiga is it's not one platform nowadays. I mean, nowadays Amiga consists of Amiga 500, 600, 1200, CD32, 4000, and each and every Amiga has all kinds of expansion hardware devices attached to it, and all these things make it kind of difficult to develop for the Amiga platform because you've got one chipset. Yes, that's true, but every Amiga is different. And that means we have to do a lot of testing, almost on a professional level, you know. So that's because people, when they download the game, when they purchase the boxed copy, they still expect the game to run. Because you cannot tell them, hey, this is for Amiga, I don't care if it runs or not, because on my Amiga it works. That's not what they want to hear. You know, they want you to deliver a game that simply works on their machine, whatever they have, whatever expansions they have attached. They don't care. I have to deliver basically. Otherwise, if I don't, well, it's you know what happens on social media if you don't deliver. Yeah, and you cannot. Well, I for one, I do not want to risk that. So there's a lot of expectation on the Amiga already, and there's a lot of expectation, of course, on PC. But again, this is. I'm aiming for a rather low-key project because this is my first PC project in my lifetime, so I'm not aiming too high. You know, I know what I can achieve within 1.5 years. That's the time frame that I've set for myself. I know what I can do. I know what I cannot do, and right now the challenge basically is to share the vision of the game with all the people who are participating in developing the game. And I mean, all the people there who are working with me on this Reshoot game, they're all coming, they have some professional background, you know, they want to have like 3D models, lighting, texturing, stuff like that. They want to have like a 2-minute cutscene in front of the game. They want professional voiceovers and whatnot. And again, this is the expectation management that I'm taking care of right now, because I have to tell these guys, look out, you're working with me, Richard. I have not really done a kind of a huge Unity project. Unity, by the way, is the platform that I'm developing the game for.
Despite the shitstorm recently about Unity.
I don't see a point, because no, really, I mean, I do see that Unity has to earn some money. The way that they communicated did not work, and I mean, by now it's all in the past, and I'm just looking forward. I just like Unity, you know. I've worked with Unity for the past years to get myself used to it. And I just simply like it, and it's very easy to develop on Unity, actually, in comparison to Amiga. So I'm not. Yeah, I mean, having said that, the same thing can happen to Unreal Engine in 3 months. You never know. Yeah, you have to have some trust.
Interesting that I see it this way, because a lot of companies and so on announce like, we will never use Unity for new projects again. I mean, you probably followed what happened. It was like a whole.
But what's the you know, the alternative is there's no alternative really. I mean, you can always try to develop your own engine, but that's very, very time consuming, very technical. True. And that's just not what I want to do. I don't want to take care of the technical side of things, because I did that on the Amiga. You know, about 80% of my time was spent getting all the technical challenges sorted out, and now I want to focus on game design basically. So the next 12 to 16 months, I just want to do game design. I don't want to take care of technical whatever challenges.
Okay, so honestly, you don't think that Unity is a problem to use it? I mean, people say it's basically the CEO. That's a disaster, and
he's a thing of the past by now. So
okay,
yeah, he's gone.
So you said you do a lot of expectation management and the Steam Deck and all those cloud saving things and cross-platform doesn't scare you. So can you talk about what is in the planning? Is the new project just code named Reshoot R, or will it be a conversion of the already existing game, or will it be a re-release, or I don't know what's actually? Can you talk about it? That's not a secret. I mean,
Yeah, there's no secret. Actually, this is the first time I'm talking to the public, so
That was the idea, actually. Yeah.
It will be interesting to get the feedback. Well, basically, Reshooter. It's not Reshoot R like like in the second Amiga game, but just Reshooter, one word.
Okay. Easier to remember.
Yeah, it's just one word and makes it easier to Google it and stuff like that. That's what people tell me is really important. So yeah, I just believe that. Yeah, no, basically, it's the game will be based on gameplay mechanics that we established for Reshooter and for Proxima 3. Basically, Proxima 3 really is like the template game, or you might want to call it like a prototype game, because we are using actually the first step will be to implement the first stage of Reshoot Proxima 3 on PC, and then use it as a kind of a playtesting area for implementing new ideas. We got a couple of ideas how we can build on the experience that is Proxima 3. I mean, there are some obvious modifications, like, for example, the visuals. They obviously have to be modified considerably. I mean, at first we thought about just basically porting the pixel art from Proxima 3 to PC, but turns out that it's probably not unique enough. I mean, there are not too many pixel art shoot 'em up games out there which really look great, and most of them they really look kind of, how should I say? They're not animated in any great way. When you have a closer look at all the objects that come on screen, they are just one frame, not animation. I have to say, they just come on screen, then they do they follow their path, and then they shoot a little bit, and that's about it. Not that much interesting stuff happened in most of these games, and so we already have for Proxima 3, we already have some very beautiful animation frames, and it might make sense to use them. But we now decided that we will use these visuals as an inspiration, and we will build a 2.5D shoot 'em up game, which uses 3D models, which plays in 2D. But we at some moments of the game we will use the 3-dimensional or the third dimension to add us some kind of special gameplay challenge to the whole thing. So visuals will be different. Attack waves will be comparable, but they will have some specials to it. We will implement or use the physics engine, which is built in Unity, to add even more immersion to the whole game by allowing the player to shoot, for example, the environment, which then kind of breaks up splinters and stuff like that, so you can shoot like a path into the environment. So destructible environment is kind of one of these things that we're going to add. And we're also going to add like a tactical gameplay layer, which means there will be some situations which will make you think even more than in Proxima 3 on how to tackle this situation. Maybe there will be situations which you can just shoot your way out. Maybe there will be situations where it's probably clever to just shoot one or two strategic places on screen, and this way get out of the whole thing that's happening around you.
One thing that would interest me is, well, I mean, there have been some other shoot 'em up games on the PC recently. I mean, for example, there has been an R-Type re-release and other shoot 'em up games for, well, little money on Steam, So do you have a role model or I don't know, or are you not looking at what is out there and concentrate on making reshoot more like your own thing? I mean, you have to. I mean, it's a different audience, right? I mean, you have to consider that people who will buy your game on Steam or perhaps on Switch, if you decide to port it, it should be pretty easy using Unity, will not be people that perhaps even owned an Amiga in their life.
Yeah, I cannot count on the Amiga audience.
Exactly. Yes.
No. The game has to work for itself. I'm really aware of that. So the first idea really is to have a name that works. I mean, I really think that Reshoot is just a good title for such a kind of game, because you kind of immediately have like a picture in your mind what kind of gameplay could be attached to a game that is called Reshooter.
True.
And also, I mean, I would be pretty bad at founding a game development company and starting a project if I hadn't watched the market before and had a look at all the games out there right now. So yes, of course I did play many shoot 'em up games. I played almost every shoot 'em up game that is available on Switch console. And of course, it's really important if you want to have like monetary success. I mean, there are several ways you can be successful. It's not always only about money. It can also be just finishing a project, basically. That's already successful, because so many projects don't get finished.
That's true.
But if you want to have like financial success, then I think it's important to give people a reason to play your game, and that usually means having some kind of unique selling point. So that can either be a great IP, a great name like R-Type, for example. I mean, I played the latest R-Type incarnation, and it's obviously living from the fact that there's a lot of money went into development. You know, the visuals are gorgeous. You know, it really uses the camera a lot, swinging around, stuff like that, having like a cutscenes, stuff like that. So visual. It's really very relying on visuals. But Reshooter is relying on gameplay, and it's also we are trying to find a good balance between the Japanese style bullet hell type of thing, which means like 100,000 bullets on screen, and you somehow have to find a way to dodge all of these bullets by knowing the hitbox of your ship. And that's probably the most popular shoot 'em up genre right now on Steam. And but we are Europeans. It doesn't make sense to try to copy that kind of thing. That's why we are going a little bit. We're stepping a little bit back, a little bit slower pacing, not as much bullets. In fact, there will be some kind of clean moments in the games, some narrative moments. So we are adding a storytelling layer to the whole game, so that it gets a little bit of meaning and gives you a reason why you want to fight through all of these bullets and all of these attack objects. And finding that balance, I think that's the secret to success in our case, because we're not a Japanese developer. It doesn't make sense to copy these guys, but also European shoot 'em ups. How should I say? They're not that popular for the simple reason that most of them are not pretty good. And we're trying to release a European a shoot 'em up with European or Western flavor, but still with some Japanese flavor attached to it in a way. And that's already what Proxima 3 on Amiga does. You know, there are some bullet hell moments in the game, but still it also is a pretty straightforward or game in which has clearly its roots in Europe. And with Reshooter, we're trying. That's one of the things that we are basically copying from Proxima 3, because it works quite well, and I don't see a reason why we should change the formula.
you could make a Japanese game mode as well.
A what?
A Japanese game mode as well.
Oh, you
For the
mean like a bullet hell mode? Extra mode?
Yeah.
Yeah,
For the
yeah.
Japanese markets, you know?
Well, I don't know if anyone in Tokyo really needs to play my game because they've got like their own games to play. But yeah, I mean, I'd feel honored if I ever get an email from Kyoto or whatever and telling me, hey, Richard, this is a great job. This is one of the greatest shoot 'em up games I've ever played. If I should ever get such an email in 2 years, then that's it.
I mean, aren't you aiming for all markets?
Yeah,
You really
I mean,
want to focus on Europe as exclusively?
No, that's not what I'm focusing on. It's just what I can do best. You know,
Okay.
it's I have to be realistic. This is, as mentioned before, this is my first PC project. So it's not
you mentioned it a
possible
couple of times. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a learning curve attached to it, and I have I want to work with people who are in kind of my neighborhood because we speak the same language, we are in the same time zone. I know how they tick, and I know how to work with them. These are all people that I can kind of rely on. If I would want to make a game that is popular and also in Asia, then it would make total sense to work with people who actually live in Asia because they know how people tick over there. But that would make things a little bit more complicated that I would want to do it right now at this stage of the project. That might always happen with the second or with the third game from my company, which is, by the way, called Spieleschreiber. I never mentioned that. Spieleschreiber is the name of the new company.
True.
So,
true.
yeah.
Is it new? Because if I look at your credits, it says that Spieleschreiber is around since 20 years.
No.
No? Or is it a different Spieleschreiber? I mean, I remember looking at your homepage years ago when we did our last interview, and there was Spieleschreiber mentioned there as a
Reshoot,
name.
probably for Reshoot. For Reshoot, I already wrote it into the manual, but that was really like an established company,
Okay.
Whereas
Okay,
Spieleschreiber right now is officially called Spieleschreiber UG or UG, which means it's an established company which pays taxes and everything is legal and official and stuff like that. That's everything you need in order to actually get the government grant that enabled me or helped me to start that project. Because you cannot even apply for such a grant if you don't have a company established.
I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned that you wouldn't dare to make a game for the Japanese market because you don't know Japanese and stuff. Because I know a story of a Japanese developer who actually learned English and started a Kickstarter to be able to communicate with the world, to make a game that appeals the world except Japanese people. So
That's
the other way
dedication.
around, actually,
That's dedication.
And it was like, wow,
Did it work out?
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking up his name right now because I forgot about it, but it is going to be released probably next year.
Okay.
And I always forget the name of the guy and the game. Yeah. So the name of the guy is Nitu Zuchi, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And it's I think the genre is called tower defense. It's a tower defense game.
A tower defense game, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, shoot 'em up in a different kind of shoot 'em up. I would say. So yeah, I mean, yeah, you can always try to do that. That's just what you have to handle all the resources you got. You have to handle the time of it that's available to you. You've got to handle the money that is available to you. You've got to handle the knowledge that is available to you, and also the people who work with you on the project. You got to handle all of these resources. And if you think yes, you got enough time to learn English and do all the communication with the community in a language that is not that you're not too used to working with, then that's perfectly fine. That probably means that this guy has already kind of finished this project before, or maybe he has like 10 games already released.
I don't know,
So,
but I just looked it up. It's called Pull Stay, and
Pull
it's
Stay.
used. It started out as a Kickstarter,
okay.
and it's Pull Stay, Japanese comedy, beat 'em up, and tower defense game.
Japanese comedy, what? I'm just Googling it.
Yeah, well, I can send you the link here.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. So I just was reminded of this because you said you don't dare to go into the Japanese gaming market, and yeah, so
I mean, it's
so I was like, hey, there is this Japanese who did it the other way around, and I mean, as you know, for Japanese people, it's pretty hard to learn English because Japanese is so much different from pronunciation and grammar. That's like super hard for them, and then you have this cultural thing that. At least I was in Japan, and Japanese people are not very, outgoing and very,
so
aggressive in
kind.
their exactly. Yes. So it's like, but if you do a Kickstarter, you have to be in your face all the time and remind people. So it's like that's totally not Japanese.
That's totally not Asian or Southeast Asian, at least I would say. Yeah, exactly right. I mean. Well, I'm not saying I'm not targeting for Japan or China or Korea or whatever. I mean, it's Steam. Steam is popular all around the world. So whoever feels when a game is released in early 25, whoever feels like this is a game I should download and play, then please feel free. It's just not that I'm not trying to mimic Japanese developers, because that's not my profession. That's not what I can do best. And there are also a lot of French developers who try to do that, so they are better than me in copying Japanese stuff. So I just try to do what I've learned in the past, and that's doing this kind of shoot 'em up thing that we do with Proxima 3, and that's not very Japanese, but it has, it also says, okay, Japan, we love your shoot 'em up games, and this is how a European kind of Japanese shoot 'em up looks like. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you play Proxima 3, for example, you will immediately recognize a few elements that are that might or might not remind you of Ikaruga, for example. Yeah. Or this alert moment just before the escalation moment. Exactly, the escalation moment is very obviously inspired by Japanese shoot 'em up games.
Exactly. I mean, there are some games that are super famous even here in Europe. For example, Metal Slug, where you sometimes don't know who is shooting at you and what is happening on the screen, but people love it anyway. So it's like, wow, Yeah, I mean, there are always some exceptions. I mean, we at Scene World, especially me, I've always been fascinated about how united we are due to the internet, but still we have this cultural thing in our head, like, this is more the target group here in Europe and less in Japan, as you mentioned. And I mean,
that's culture. That's just culture, and this is a great thing to me. I mean, I just hope we are all successful in keeping at least some of our culture, because when I traveled the world 11 years ago. Together with my now wife, and we visited a couple of places, including Japan, and it was just a pleasure visiting these places and learning about the very different culture, because you can learn so much. I mean, as you mentioned, these in Japan or in probably in Hong Kong, but Thailand and Vietnam, people are kind of calm. They would never cry. They would never, engage you without asking you. But still, they're very helpful, and that's something I would really wish more people in Germany would be a little bit like that, And because it's not as loud, and I really liked the whole vibe in Tokyo was just amazing, and I just, probably the best thing that could ever happen to me would be that we release Reshooter, and a Japanese publisher gives me a call and tells me, hey Richard, I really like the game you put out on Steam. Let us do a Switch conversion. And then they invite me to Kyoto, and then we talk about that. And then I will have like 3 weeks of holiday in Kyoto and just get to know that city and on the surroundings and stuff like that. That would be amazing.
I mean, you need a new deal now that the deal on the live stream we had for Gamescom with the Amico console didn't happen. Yeah, because the console didn't release. So.
Yeah, that was kind of a shame, really. I mean, that was the Interdivision thing going on, and would be great to have like a retro console that really works nowadays. But there are.
I mean, isn't there? I think it's called. Now I forgot the name. There is this retro console that is pretty hyped nowadays.
There are always retro consoles, but these are not really huge brands, you know. Also, Atari wasn't really successful in releasing the new VCS console. I mean, there was some campaign going on, and you could buy the give your money to the console. You could really buy it. The same with Intellivision. You know, you could give Intellivision your money, but you never got an actual console. But so many people are hoping for a great game system which has like an old name attached to it, but can play new games. But that's probably something else. But that would be, of course, that would be a perfect platform for my game, because you know, this is, of course, the whole shoot 'em up genre has very old schoolish vibes to it. That's something which you would have played in the 90s.
Now I totally forgot what it was called. Evercade. The Evercade. Isn't that something that would be a very welcoming target console for your new game? I mean, the Evercade is a retro console, modernized, and it's a huge success from what I heard.
I don't have any real figures, but as far as I'm aware, they're basically working with old IP on their console. So you've got like old games re-released on this new platform. So it's basically, I don't know, is it FPGA based? I'm not sure about that. I hope so.
I don't have it. But hey, you are Richard Loewenstein. Doesn't your name count enough?
No. I just want to do a jump to the modern systems. That's basically mine. That's why I'm developing for PC Steam now.
And is a Switch conversion planned?
Not really, no. You know, again, that's not because I wouldn't want to do that. It's just I just can't. You know, you mentioned that it should be easy to port a PC game to Switch when using Unity, and you're kind of right.
But also kind of wrong, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. That's true, because it's still a lot of work attached to it, you know. And there's a reason why some studios are specializing on only porting games. They are not developing games. They are basically porting games from mostly PC to Switch or PlayStation or whatever. And the reason simply is that it's still complicated. It's not like you need to just switch the button from PC to Switch, and then you get a Switch build, and then you just release it. That's unfortunately not how it works. And that's why I want to finish the project on PC. And if all goes well, then I might get a call from a publisher who says, hey, we like your game. We want to port it to, or we want to help you port it to some other systems. And yeah, I mean, Switch would be a dream come true, because I'm playing all my shoot 'em up games on Switch. Some on PC, some on Amiga, but mostly Switch, for the simple reason that I've got my big TV attached to it, and I just like to play games on my big TV. And I don't know, I mean, I could play them on PlayStation, but somehow I just don't. It's this. It's just a Switch for me. Yeah, so a Switch is not out of the question, and technically it's perfectly feasible to do that because the game technically is not very advanced. You know, it doesn't really paint like 3D pictures, photorealistic.
But still then you could do it. I mean, I just remember how everybody said that Doom and Wolfenstein 2 cannot be converted, and then Panic Button came and converted both games for Bethesda to the Switch, and everybody was like, "Wow, it's possible!" And just recently, Red Dead Redemption was ported to the Switch, which was also a great achievement, despite those triple A games were supposed to never work properly on the Switch.
Wasn't Red Dead Redemption a cloud-based port?
Not really. I have the physical release here.
Really? No, yeah, but I think, well, I might be wrong, but I think some of these visually amazing games, they are kind of cloud-based, so that they are not really running on the Switch console itself, but they are running on some servers somewhere, Europe, Japan, United States, whatever. And it's basically a cloud-based service, and the Switch is just kind of a terminal which you're using to, providing your inputs, but the whole picture is not generated on the Switch itself, and that's why some games look more amazing than you would probably imagine that a Switch can handle. But these are all more like not fast-paced games. But anyway,
I think Red Dead Redemption is not a cloud game, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, what you see, the point is if you invest a little bit of thought and money and know-how into such a port, it's possible. I mean, why not? You just have to really tailor it for the console. It might not look as great, but it still looks great, you know.
Yeah, that's actually true. You're right. The downside of Doom and Wolfenstein 2 is actually that in some areas of the game they have to reduce the resolution pretty much. Yeah, that's actually true.
Yeah. So you must not make the mistake and compare the PS4 or PS5 version with the Switch version, because otherwise you will be sad. But if you don't do that, if you just try to get entertained by the Switch original game or by the Switch port in this case, hey, it's probably fine for a lot of people.
Yeah, nice. So right now you are focusing on PC. So did you think about releasing it independently, or will you do a Steam release, or what is the planning actually right now?
This will be published by Spieleschreiber, because it's a Steam release. Steam releases are typically comparably easy to handle because you don't have to produce boxed copies. I mean, there are no boxed copy games on PC anymore in 2023 anyway. But this is really a release that we want to handle ourselves. So but that's one of the challenges. Releasing a game actually takes a bit of time and a lot of knowledge. That's why I'm having someone in the team who's got some experience with releasing games on Steam, because he used to work as a producer or a project manager at a company which basically just released games. And that's what I try to get across as a message. I'm trying to work with people who know what they are doing. I'm aware that I cannot learn everything myself. And that's one of the things that one of my colleagues will handle, the product management and releasing of the game.
So that means there will be a physical release, and it will not be on any marketplace.
No physical release.
Oh, I misunderstood you. So it will be a Steam release.
I was not clear probably. No, it doesn't make sense to release a physical box, because no one who buys box games on PC.
I mean, Tempest Rising, the game that's going to be released next year by 3D Realms, which is, probably you heard it, like a reimagination of Command & Conquer. I pre-ordered the physical PC release.
Yeah, you did, and probably a few thousand others, but we are talking a totally different genre
Right.
and brand,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I really feel honored that you mentioned that in the same discussion with Reshooter, but no, we're not playing in the same league.
Yeah, but just to mention, there are still some studios crazy enough to release games on physical media. But also, we have to admit that physical doesn't always mean physical. You probably also know that some PC physical releases is a jewel box with a nice cover art and stuff, and inside is a code and just a placeholder
Yeah.
for a CD, but there's no CD in it. Just
Yeah,
a Steam code or something.
Just a Steam code, exactly. I mean, physical boxes for PC make sense if there's a nice, map, art book, figurine, whatever, all these things that you can put onto the shelves, like
Yeah.
I do with having Shadow Man and all these all figurines I've got in my collection. That makes sense. You have to have, obviously, to like a physical edition, but we are not talking about this. This is just not imaginable for my game. Not right now.
I see. All right. Well, I mean, we covered it pretty much all. So pretty much amazed. So, can we talk about what's the time plan? When do you plan to release the game?
Yeah,
Or
of course we can. Yeah, we already started production. So production means we are already working on stuff that will be visible and hearable in the final game. And the plan is to have like a vertical slice playable by early 2024. And we shall be in a close to release state, better end of 24. And release, if everything runs perfectly well, then we will release and in late 24. But I would imagine that we are probably better off aiming for 25, early 25, something like that. So that's the plan. And then also that it has to work like that because when we applied for the governmental grant, you have to also provide like a schedule, a very detailed schedule actually, and you have to stick to that. You cannot really alter that too much, otherwise, especially now that the governmental grant is not available anymore. It's closed by now.
really?
The budget ran out.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's already
just for this year or for general?
No one knows.
Wow.
Right now, it looks like it's just for this year, maybe next year, but it looks like it's for 2 years. It's closed for 2 years. That's the situation at this very moment, as far as I'm aware. And that also means to me that there's not much maneuvering space for modifying the schedule. Because every modification means I'm losing money and I have to pay some, or I will not get the fundings that I need, and that would kind of endanger the project. So the governmental grant doesn't really, they're not providing all the money you need for such a project, but they're really helping a lot. And if you lose like 30, 40, 50% of the budget, then it has a serious impact on such a game. Quality suffers or will not even finish, and that's why I really need to try to stick to the plan. So early 25.
I guess you are living from it also.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's my full-time job right now. Exactly.
Yeah. So the goals are different. You really have to, but also pay, I guess, the people who are working with you.
Exactly. It's a full-grown company with a full-grown project, and there are some numbers attached to it. I have to pay the people involved with the project, including myself, because I've got like a family. We need to pay rents, buy food, stuff that everyone needs to do.
Right.
And the money has to come from somewhere, and the money comes from my company. So it's basically it's a small development company trying to get the first release out successfully. Having said that, the experience we have now with the Reshoot games on Amiga, that really helps tremendously. I mean, Unity is kind of a new thing to us, but everything else we already kind of know. And there are a lot of people working with me on this project who already have all the expertise that I'm lacking.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that whenever I do not know how to handle, I don't know, some kind of special lighting on some kind of object in Unity, then I can always just call someone and ask him how he would do that, how we would approach to that challenge, and then we have a solution pretty fast. So it's basically a small development studio with its roots in the Reshoot series on Amiga, and that's kind of very special, I think.
Have you ever thought about approaching a publisher to help you financially in promoting the game, or are you fearing that they would too much control the game contents or the gameplay?
The government grant provides sufficient freedom for me to work on the game design as I think it should be. I'm not afraid of a publisher, aiming for a different type of game, because usually if a publisher wants a different type of game, they just work with a different type of developer, not me.
Right.
It wouldn't really make sense to work with me if they don't like my project. But what it would mean is always responsibility. You get money, and that always means you have to deliver milestones, monthly or bi-monthly or whatever. That this at the very least means overhead, administration overhead, lots of discussions, lots of time that is spent in meetings, and that's not something I want to do. And it's just unnecessary right now. The project is basically funded, and if we would get additional money, fine. But that's probably something that we will try to do with the second project from Spieleschreiber, because by then we have a first project that is already finished. And when you have a finished project to present to a publisher, then it's always easier to discuss an agreement.
It's not enough to say, "Hey, I'm Richard Loewenstein."
No. You always have to prove that you can finish a project.
Yeah.
And that's a difficult task for every developer. Not only presenting or do a good pitch and exciting pitch and convince people that this game is worth developing, but also convincing people that you are the guys that you should work with, because this is the greatest developer and they always deliver in time. And probably the second project will be a little bit bigger than a reshooter. And if that's the case, then it might make sense to talk to publishers and ask them for some additional fundings in order to get the whole project developed.
And then you could make special physical releases for strictly limited or limited run games or something,
I mean, what's that with you asking for these physical boxes all the time? Actually, I got rid of all these things because I tried to get my stuff, my apartment clean. I'm not collecting too many things myself. So that's, but I mean, if Limited Run ever should send an email and wants to discuss a physical console release, by the way, does make much more sense than a physical PC release, I would suggest. So yeah, if they ever want to help me support or port the game themselves and then also release like a physical box, I'm so happy. It's the best feeling in the world if you develop a game and then you've got like the ghost disc in front of you, and you're sending that to the production plant, and then you get back like a finished boxed copy which just looks shiny and feels good. I would love to do that. It just needs a little bit more expertise that maybe we got that in 2 years.
We interviewed them as well, Limited Run Games.
Okay.
And they actually said in the interview that they often make physical releases for little game studios like yours, for example.
Yeah.
And then they help. Then they help making it reality.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. That's perfectly possible. I'm not denying that I would love to do that. Yeah. And I mean, if you develop a game, you're also talking to other developers. You're usually
true.
Yeah, traveling to Gamescom or Game Developer Conference or whatever, all these events, or at least some of these events. And then you get to meet and greet a few people, and one of them might be someone from Limited Run who just happens to like shoot 'em up games, which look like an old Amiga title, but with some special sauce attached to it. And then you never know what could happen from such a discussion.
Exactly. You see, that's exactly my point. Yeah. Yeah, well, that's just me. I'm always asking for physical releases. That's just me. That's just my thing,
Yeah. Well, it's the same with me actually. It's just that I'm not collecting these things, but I'm buying them, I'm playing them, and then I'm selling them because I don't want to collect games anymore. It's just not. I don't have the place and the space available. But I always buy disk-based games just because I just like them, and I just hate downloads. I mean, every time I buy a game on Steam, I really kind of hate the experience because it's so not inspiring. It's so bored. I'm just bored by having to start the download, and that just I'm living in a very rural place where we don't have such a fast internet connection. So downloading a current AAA release, can take you a whole day.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's a very slow internet over here. So, and that's why I, just by nature, I cannot really love download games. I just have to live with them.
Right.
And I love physical releases. But yeah, again, Reshoot can only be digital due to price point, due to target audience, due to all these things that are a trademark of the game.
Right. Well, as I just learned, I have to get them emailing you. So perhaps.
Yeah, please do.
Well, though, thanks for sitting with me. Now we actually got an hour out of the topic, So.
Yeah. And we didn't cover a lot of things, so there's plenty of topics to discuss in 1.5 years when we are closing in on the release.
Right, wonderful,
Yeah. It was a pleasure.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, it was a pleasure talking to you again. Thanks a lot. Very kind words. Thanks a lot.